Chosen one, why have you been waking up at 3:17 a.m. for the past 3 weeks? Why does your soul feel like it's holding its breath? Why does every fiber of your being whisper that something monumental is about to crack open your ordinary world? Stop right there. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about divine timing. This isn't another feel-good sermon about patience. This is a prophetic interruption, a sacred collision between your desperation and heaven's declaration. You didn't find this message. This message hunted you down. I'm not here by accident, and neither are you. Something has been circling your life like a spiritual storm system, and this Thursday, mark this date, circle it, burn it into your memory this Thursday. The eye of that storm passes directly over your address. Listen carefully. Before every great storm comes the hush. Before breakthrough, the stillness. And you, chosen one, have been living in that sacred silence, haven't you? That strange, heavy quiet where your prayers echo back like whispers in an empty cathedral. But here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. Your silence wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. Heaven has been holding its breath, waiting for this exact Thursday, when the stars align with your story and destiny downloads into your desperate reality. Something inside you has been restless, hasn't it? Like your spirit knows something your mind can't grasp yet. You felt like you're standing on the edge of something, some invisible cliff where faith meets fulfillment. If that's you, if every word I'm speaking is reading your soul like an open book, write in the comments right now, I hear the whisper. Before I go deeper into what Thursday really means in heaven's calendar, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But hear me clearly. This Thursday isn't just another date on your calendar. It's a divine appointment that's been written in heaven's ledger since before you took your first breath. What's coming isn't just change, it's metamorphosis. It's the moment when your caterpillar season ends and your butterfly destiny begins. The silence you've survived is about to explode into significance. And in just a few minutes, I'll show you exactly what Thursday means for your breakthrough. But first, let's talk about the sacred hush you've been living in and why it was never meant to last forever. Have you ever screamed into your pillow at 2 a.m., wondering if God installed a cosmic spam filter that blocks your prayers? Have you ever sat in your kitchen, coffee growing cold, staring at bills you can't pay while remembering when you actually believed miracles were real? Have you ever looked in the mirror and whispered the most dangerous question a believer can ask? Did you forget about me? If that's you, if those words just punched you in the chest, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know the taste of divine silence, the weight of unanswered prayers, the slow, suffocating realization that maybe, just maybe, you've been talking to an empty sky for years. Dear chosen one, let me tell you something about the long night that will shatter every lie you've been whispering to yourself in the dark. You think God went quiet because you failed him. You think the silence means you're not enough, not faithful enough, not worthy enough. You've been carrying shame like a lead blanket, convinced that your pain is proof of his disappointment. But what if I told you that your silence wasn't punishment, it was protection? Think about Elijah. This man called down fire from heaven, defeated 450 prophets of Baal, and then he ran to a cave and begged God to let him die. I have had enough, Lord, he cried in 1 Kings 19:4. Take my life. One day he's splitting the sky with supernatural power. The next he's suicidal in a hole in the ground. Sound familiar? But here's what breaks my heart about your story. You've been carrying burdens that would crush people half your age. You've buried spouses who were your whole world. You've watched children walk away from everything you tried to teach them. You've felt your body betray you, joint by joint, pill by pill, doctor's appointment by devastating doctor's appointment. And through it all, you kept praying. You kept believing. You kept showing up to churches that felt colder than morgues, listening to sermons that bounced off your pain like rubber balls off concrete. But the silence almost killed you, didn't it? Let me paint you a picture that's going to crack your heart wide open. Picture Job, not the Sunday school version, but the real Job, covered in boils, scraping his skin with broken pottery, sitting in ashes, while his friends told him it was all his fault. The Bible says in Job 2:13, "Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him, because they saw how great his suffering was." 7 days of silence. 7 nights of wondering if God had turned his back forever. You've had your 7 days, haven't you? Except yours lasted 7 years, 7 decades, maybe. You've sat in your own ashes, the ashes of dreams that died, relationships that crumbled, hopes that withered like flowers in a drought. But here's what Job didn't know during those 7 nights of hell. Here's what you haven't understood during your long seasons of silence. Sometimes God hides you not to punish you, but to preserve you. You were being wrapped in divine bubble wrap. Think about it. When a master sculptor works on his most precious piece, what does he do? He covers it. He protects it from dust, from damage, from prying eyes that might misunderstand the process. The covering isn't rejection, it's protection. That's what happened to Moses for 40 years in the wilderness. 40 years. The man destined to deliver millions spent 4 decades feeling forgotten, tending sheep instead of leading people. But God wasn't punishing Moses, he was preparing him. Because the Moses who fled Egypt as a murderer couldn't handle what the Moses who emerged from the burning bush was about to carry. Your wilderness wasn't your punishment, it was your graduate school. Every sleepless night when you wondered if anyone cared, God was taking notes. Every tear you cried in secret, he was collecting them in bottles. Every prayer that seemed to echo in empty space, he was building an answer so massive, it required decades of preparation just to contain it. But the enemy wanted you to interpret the silence as abandonment. He whispered lies during your 3 a.m. breakdowns. If God loved you, he wouldn't let you hurt like this. If you were really chosen, your life wouldn't be this hard. Those whispers almost convinced you to quit, didn't they? Even Jesus, the Son of the living God, felt the weight of divine silence. In that garden, sweating drops of blood, he cried out, "Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me." Matthew 26:39. The silence that followed was so heavy, it could have crushed mountains. But that silence wasn't God abandoning his Son. It was God positioning him for the greatest victory in human history. Your silence wasn't abandonment either. It was positioning. Type still here in the comments if you've walked through that valley of shadow and death, and somehow by some miracle you can't explain, you're still breathing, you're still hoping, you're still believing that maybe, just maybe, the silence is about to break. Because here's what I need you to understand as we move toward Thursday's revelation. The depth of your silence has been creating the capacity for your sound. The intensity of your hiding has been building the platform for your revealing. The length of your night has been calibrating the brightness of your dawn. You weren't forgotten during the long night. You were being forged. But the question that will determine everything about what happens this Thursday is this. Will you trust that the God who sustained you through the silence is the same God who's about to shatter it with his voice? Listen to me, chosen one. There's something about Thursday that hell doesn't want you to discover. Something so powerful, so earth-shattering, that the enemy has spent your entire lifetime trying to keep you blind to it. You think it's just another day of the week, don't you? Just the day before Friday, the bridge to the weekend. But what if I told you that Thursday carries a frequency that shakes the foundations of eternity itself? Let me take you back 2,000 years. Picture this. It's Thursday night in Jerusalem. The air is thick with anticipation and dread. Jesus knows what's coming. He can feel the weight of every sin, every sorrow, every broken dream pressing down on his shoulders like a mountain. And what does he do on this Thursday night? He doesn't run, he doesn't hide. He takes a towel and begins washing dirty feet. Think about that for a moment. The Son of the living God, hours before the greatest sacrifice in human history, gets on his knees and serves. On Thursday night, before the crucifixion, before the resurrection, before the victory that would echo through eternity, he chooses surrender over self-preservation. Why Thursday? Because Thursday is the day of preparation. Thursday is when heaven downloads the strength you'll need for Friday's battle and Sunday's victory. But here's what will shake you to your core. Every Thursday of your life has been preparing you for this Thursday. Every moment of doubt, every sleepless night, every prayer that seemed to bounce off the ceiling, it was all Thursday. Energy, preparation energy, Gethsemane energy. Do you remember Gethsemane? Luke 22:44 tells us that Jesus prayed so intensely, his sweat became like drops of blood falling to the ground. Blood. The pressure was so immense that his human body began to break under the weight of what was coming. That's where you've been living, isn't it? In your own Gethsemane, sweating blood over decisions that could change everything, wrestling with God in the dark places of your soul, crying out, "If there's another way, let this cup pass from me." But then comes the moment that changes everything. Jesus speaks the words that split the heavens, "Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." Chosen one, that's your Thursday moment. That's the surrender that unlocks resurrection power. When you finally stop fighting God's timing and start flowing with heaven's strategy, you've been asking the wrong question. You've been saying, "Why is this taking so long?" When you should be asking, "What is God preparing me for that requires this level of refinement?" Thursday is the bridge between pressure and purpose, between your Gethsemane and your glory, between the sweating blood and the empty tomb. And here's the mystery that will blow your mind. Everything changes not on Friday, not on Sunday, but Thursday, when the heart says yes, when the chosen one stops fighting and starts surrendering. When you finally understand that the pressure wasn't meant to break you, it was meant to prepare you. Look at your life right now. Really look at it. How many times have you been in situations where everything had to die for something greater to be born? How many Thursdays have you survived where you thought it was the end, only to discover it was actually the beginning? That job loss that devastated you, that was Thursday energy. That relationship that crumbled, Thursday energy. That dream that seemed to die, Thursday, preparation for resurrection power. You think you've been wandering in the wilderness, but you've been living in the upper room. You think you've been forgotten, but you've been prepared. Every Thursday of your existence has been building toward this Thursday. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Your Gethsemane is almost over. Can you feel it? That strange stirring in your spirit, that restless energy that makes you feel like you're about to jump out of your own skin. That's not anxiety, dear one. That's anticipation. That's your soul recognizing that the season of preparation is ending and the season of manifestation is beginning. Matthew 26:41 records Jesus saying to his disciples, "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Even in his darkest hour, even in his moment of ultimate surrender, Jesus was teaching them, teaching you that Thursday requires both spiritual vigilance and physical endurance. You've been watching, you've been praying, you've been pressing through when your flesh wanted to quit. And now, this Thursday, heaven is saying, it's time. Time for what? Time for the thing you've been preparing for without even knowing it. Time for the assignment that's had your name on it since before you took your first breath. Time for the breakthrough that's been building pressure behind the scenes of your life. Everything you've survived was Thursday training. Every tear you've cried was Thursday preparation. Every night you held on when letting go would have been easier. That was you passing the Thursday test. Could it be that your Gethsemane is almost over? Could it be that the sweating blood is about to transform into resurrection power? Could it be that this Thursday, this specific Thursday, is when everything finally makes sense? The silence is about to break. The waiting is about to end. The preparation is about to become manifestation. But first, you need to understand something that will determine whether you walk into your destiny or watch it pass you by. Dear chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your heart. How many nights have you laid awake wondering why God made you wait so long? How many times have you watched others walk into their destiny while you sat in the waiting room of your own life? How many moments have you questioned if you missed your window, if you were forgotten, if maybe you weren't really chosen after all? Stop torturing yourself with those lies. What I'm about to reveal will completely transform how you see every delay, every closed door, every season of silence you've endured. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. And there's a monumental difference between the two that will shake you to your core. Listen to me carefully. Jesus himself said in Matthew 22:14, "Many are called, but few are chosen." Did you catch that? Many are called. Millions hear the invitation. Thousands respond to the pull, but few, precious few, are actually chosen for the assignment that changes everything. You feel that weight, don't you? That strange burden you've carried since childhood. That sense that you were born for something greater than ordinary life. That restlessness that won't let you settle for mediocre when your soul screams for magnificent. That's not your imagination, that's your chosenness fighting to emerge. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. The very thing that makes you chosen is the same thing that makes you delayed. Because chosen ones aren't mass-produced, they're handcrafted. They're forged in fires that would destroy ordinary people. They're refined like precious metals that can't be rushed through the process. Malachi 3:3 tells us exactly what's been happening to you. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver. You think you've been sitting on the shelf. You've been sitting in the refiner's fire, and that fire has been burning away everything that isn't pure gold. Every betrayal refined your discernment. Every financial struggle refined your dependence on God. Every health battle refined your faith. Every lonely night refined your intimacy with the Almighty. You weren't being tortured. You were being treasured, refined, purified, made ready for something so holy it couldn't be trusted to anyone else. Think about David. This young man was anointed king by Samuel when he was barely old enough to tend sheep. The oil ran down his face. The prophet declared his destiny. But did David walk straight into the palace? No, he spent years running for his life, hiding in caves, wondering if God had forgotten his promise. Years of waiting, years of wondering, years of watching someone else sit on the throne that was supposed to be his. But every cave taught him something the palace couldn't. Every night of fear taught him to lean on God's strength. Every moment of delay was building the character he'd need to handle the weight of a crown. And you, precious chosen one, you've been in your own caves, haven't you? Caves of disappointment, caves of financial pressure, caves of broken relationships, caves of health scares, caves of watching others get promoted while you stayed invisible. But what you thought was punishment was actually your personal preparation chamber. The reason it took so long is because what's coming is too holy to be rushed. You're not a paper plate that can be manufactured quickly and thrown away after one use. You're fine china, hand-painted, carefully crafted, baked in kilns at temperatures that would shatter cheaper materials. Heaven had to set the table first, the right table, the right setting, the right moment when your arrival would have maximum impact. Do you understand what this means? It means every tear you've cried has been collected in heaven's bottles. Every prayer you've whispered has been recorded in eternal archives. Every moment you felt forgotten was actually a moment when God was most present, sculpting your character in the secret place. But here's the part that's going to break you open with joy. The waiting is almost over. The preparation is nearly complete. This Thursday marks the end of your refinement season and the beginning of your release season. I need you to feel the weight of this moment. After years of being shaped in secret, after decades of wondering if your time would ever come, after seasons of watching others step into what you thought should be yours, You're about to discover why you were worth the wait. If you know you've been chosen but delayed, if you feel that fire of preparation burning in your bones, if you're tired of apologizing for the weight you carry, say it out loud right now. I was worth the wait. Don't whisper it. Declare it. Let heaven hear it. Let hell tremble at it. Because you were worth every year of refinement, every season of silence, every moment of preparation. The enemy tried to convince you that the delay meant disqualification, but God was preparing you for something so significant that it required a vessel strong enough to carry it without breaking, wise enough to steward it without corruption, and humble enough to give him all the glory when it manifests. But what exactly is coming this Thursday that required such intensive preparation? What has heaven been orchestrating that needed you to be refined to this exact level of readiness? But chosen one, you think heaven has been silent? You think God has forgotten your address? Let me shatter that lie right now with truth that will make your spirit tremble. The signs have been screaming at you for weeks. You've just been too wounded by disappointment to trust what your soul already knows. That song that keeps playing on the radio, the one that makes your heart skip, that license plate with your birth year that you've seen 3 times this week, that phone call from someone you hadn't heard from in years, right when you were thinking about them. Coincidence? Beloved, there are no coincidences in the kingdom of God. Listen to me carefully. God doesn't shout from burning bushes anymore. He whispers through repetition. He speaks in patterns. He sends messages through the mundane until the mundane becomes miraculous. And if you've been paying attention, really paying attention, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Have you been seeing 11:11 on clocks? Have you been waking up at the exact same time every night? Has someone mentioned your childhood dream out of nowhere? These aren't random occurrences, dear one. These are divine breadcrumbs leading you straight to Thursday's breakthrough. In Jeremiah 1:11-12, God asked the prophet, "What do you see?" And when Jeremiah answered, God said, "You have seen correctly, for I am watching to see that my word is fulfilled." God is still watching. God is still speaking. But he's waiting for you to see correctly. You thought that dream you had last Tuesday was just your subconscious playing tricks. But what if I told you it was actually a preview? What if that vision of yourself standing in a different place, wearing confidence like a crown, speaking words that carried weight, what if that wasn't fantasy but prophecy? Here's what's happening in the invisible realm while you've been doubting. Angels have been positioning themselves around your Thursday. Doors that have been rusted shut for decades are getting their hinges oiled. Phone numbers are being dialed by people who don't even know why they feel compelled to call you. Opportunities are being unwrapped like gifts with your name on the tag. But the enemy knows what's coming. That's why the attacks have intensified lately. That's why you felt more isolated, more confused, more ready to give up. Satan recognizes divine timing, and he's throwing everything he has at you to make you miss your moment. Don't you dare let him win. Everything you thought you lost, that relationship that ended badly, that job that slipped away, that dream that seemed to die, it's all been orbiting you like planets around the sun. And this Thursday, beloved, they're coming into perfect alignment. You think you failed that interview 5 years ago. Number. You were being protected from settling for less than God's best. You think your spouse walked away because you weren't enough. Number. They were moved out of the way so the right person could find you. You think your business collapsed because you weren't smart enough. Number. It was torn down so God could build you something earthquake-proof. Romans 8:28 doesn't lie when it says, "All things work together for good to them that love God." All things, not some things, not the easy things, all things. Even the things that broke your heart, even the things that bankrupted your bank account, even the things that made you question if God was real. Have you been feeling restless at night, like your spirit is pacing inside your chest? That's not insomnia, chosen one. That's anticipation. Your soul recognizes what your mind hasn't grasped yet. Thursday is the day your waiting ends and your walking begins. I'm talking to the grandmother who raised 5 children but never felt fulfilled in her own calling. I'm talking to the grandfather who built a career but always felt like he was meant for something bigger. I'm talking to every senior citizen who has been told their best days are behind them when God is whispering that your greatest chapter hasn't even been written yet. The signs are everywhere if you have eyes to see. Your neighbor mentioned Thursday unprompted. A stranger complimented something about you that you've always doubted. You found money in a coat pocket you forgot about. Your body feels different, lighter, expectant, like it's preparing for something. These aren't accidents, these are announcements. Comment the number 555 if you've been seeing signs that something is shifting. Let heaven know you're paying attention now, because when you acknowledge the signs, you activate the next level of revelation. But here's what most people miss. The signs aren't just confirmations, they're invitations. God is saying, will you trust me enough to step into Thursday with expectation instead of resignation? Will you believe that your best days aren't behind you but ahead of you? The answer you give will determine whether Thursday becomes just another day or the day that splits your life into before and after. So tell me, chosen one, are you ready to stop dismissing the signs and start receiving them? Because what I'm about to show you next will prove that Thursday isn't just circled on heaven's calendar, it's written in your DNA. Dear chosen one, what I'm about to reveal will explain why your life has felt like a jigsaw puzzle with one missing piece, why success felt hollow, why relationships left you empty, why even your greatest achievements whispered, there's more, instead of you've arrived. That restlessness you've carried for decades, that wasn't dissatisfaction, that was destiny calling. You see, most people think Thursday is just the day before Friday, but in heaven's calendar, this Thursday carries a frequency that only shows up once every 7 years. It's what the ancient Hebrews called moed, an appointed time when the spiritual realm intersects with your natural world so powerfully that what seemed impossible suddenly becomes inevitable. But here's what will shock you to your core. You didn't miss your moment. Your moment has been chasing you. Think about Jacob wrestling with the angel at Peniel. Genesis 32-24 tells us, he wrestled all night until the breaking of dawn. All night. But when morning came, Jacob wasn't the same man who started that fight. He walked away with a new name, a new identity, and a permanent reminder of the night he touched eternity and lived to tell about it. This Thursday is your Peniel moment. You've been wrestling with questions that have no earthly answers, wrestling with dreams that seem too big for your reality, wrestling with a calling that frightens you as much as it thrills you. But what if I told you that every night you've spent tossing and turning, every 3 a.m. prayer session, every moment you felt like you're fighting invisible forces? What if all of that was preparation for this Thursday, when your wrestling match finally ends? Look at me, really look at me. The thing you think has been running from you, that promotion, that relationship, that healing, that breakthrough you've prayed for until your knees bled, it hasn't been running from you. It's been running toward you, gathering momentum, picking up divine authorization, waiting for this exact Thursday when every cosmic tumbler falls into place. Moses was 80 years old when God called him from the burning bush. 80. When most people are planning their funeral, God was planning Moses' future. For 40 years, Moses thought he was done, finished. Has been shepherd watching other people's sheep in the middle of nowhere. But Exodus 3-4 records the moment everything changed. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush. God had been watching. God had been waiting. And when the appointed time arrived, the very thing that Moses thought disqualified him, his age, his past, his failures, became the very thing that qualified him to lead 2 million people to freedom. Your Thursday is your burning bush moment. But let me tell you what separates those who step into their Thursday breakthrough from those who let it pass by. Recognition. You have to recognize that this isn't just another day. This isn't just another promise. This is the day when your assignment becomes visible. Isaiah 55:11 declares, "So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. Every prayer you've whispered, every tear you've cried, every night you've laid in bed wondering if God remembers your name, those weren't lost words disappearing into space. They were prophetic deposits building compound interest in heaven's bank, and this Thursday, the withdrawal slip gets processed. Thursday is the mirror, and when you look in it, you won't see who you were, you'll see who you were born to be. You won't see the person who got passed over for that promotion 20 years ago. You'll see the person God held back from that position because he had something better planned. You won't see the spouse who walked away and left you broken. You'll see the one who was preserved for a love story that Hollywood couldn't script. You won't see the parent whose children disappointed them. You'll see the spiritual father, the spiritual mother who's about to birth purposes into people who aren't even related to you by blood. This is your aha moment. The moment when every delay finally makes sense, when every detour reveals itself as divine direction, when every no you received gets exposed as God's way of saying not yet, because what I have for you is so much greater. But here's the part that will drop you to your knees. The thing that's been chasing you, purpose, love, restoration, vindication, is not running from you anymore. It's finally caught up. You've felt it building, haven't you? That electric anticipation in the atmosphere around your life. That sense that something monumental is about to shift. Your spirit has been receiving downloads from heaven's throne room, preparing you for this Thursday when what was promised in private gets announced in public. 2 Corinthians 6:2 reminds us, I tell you, now is the time of God's favor, now is the day of salvation, not tomorrow, not when you get your act together, not when you feel worthy. Now, this Thursday, this appointed time that has your name written in golden letters across heaven's calendar. So let me ask you something that will determine whether you step into this Thursday breakthrough or let it pass by. Are you going to keep rehearsing your disqualifications, or are you finally ready to embrace your divine appointments? Stand up right now. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just stand up. Lay your hand on your heart and say these words with me. Lord, I'm ready. Reveal it to me this Thursday. Because what's about to unfold in your life won't just change your Thursday. It's going to rewrite every day that follows. You know what breaks my heart? It's watching God's chosen ones scroll through their phones at 2 a.m., searching for purpose in the comment sections of strangers when the creator of the universe has been trying to get their attention for months. You've been surviving, haven't you? Just getting by, making it through another day, another week, another month of wondering if this is all there is. But survival was never your assignment, chosen one. Strategy was. The old you was waiting. The new you is moving. Chosen one, it's time. Listen to me carefully. This restlessness you feel, this ache in your chest that wakes you up in the middle of the night, that's not anxiety, that's activation. Your spirit is trying to tell you something your mind refuses to accept. You were built for battle, not for the bench. God didn't choose you to sit and scroll. He chose you to step and lead. But here's where most people miss it. They think activation means waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect feeling. They're waiting for confidence before they move, but that's backwards. Confidence comes from moving, not from waiting. Look at Moses, 80 years old when God called him from that burning bush. 80. And what was his first response? I can't speak well. Exodus 4:10. God didn't say, you're right, let me find someone else. He said, who gave human beings their mouths? Now go, I will help you speak. Moses didn't feel ready. Moses felt terrified. But Moses moved anyway. And that movement, that first step toward Pharaoh's palace, that's when the miraculous began. Your Thursday isn't coming to make you comfortable. It's coming to make you accountable. Accountable to the calling you've been running from. Accountable to the assignment you've been postponing. Accountable to the person you were born to become. How many more years are you going to waste waiting for permission? How many more months are you going to let fear convince you that next year will be better? How many more weeks are you going to let your past failures dictate your future possibilities? Stop. Right there. Your past doesn't get a vote in your future. Your failures don't determine your capacity. Your age doesn't define your assignment. David was a teenager when he killed Goliath. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. Caleb was 85 when he conquered mountains. Your timeline is not their timeline. Your breakthrough is not their breakthrough. But here's what they all had in common. They moved when God said move. They didn't debate. They didn't negotiate. They didn't wait for a committee meeting. When heaven spoke, earth shifted. This Thursday is your burning bush moment. This Thursday is your Red Sea opportunity. This Thursday is your Jericho breakthrough. But it requires something from you that comfort zones cannot provide. Forward motion. I'm talking to the grandmother who's been praying for her family for 30 years, but won't pick up the phone to have the difficult conversation. I'm talking to the grandfather who knows he needs to forgive his son, but keeps waiting for him to apologize first. I'm talking to every senior saint who's been carrying a burden that God never asked them to bear. Movement isn't just physical. Movement is emotional. Movement is spiritual. Movement is picking up that phone. Movement is sending that text. Movement is having that conversation you've been avoiding for 3 years. Jesus said in Matthew 11:12, "The kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and forceful people lay hold of it." Forceful, not passive, not patient. Forceful. That means you don't wait for your breakthrough to find you. You advance toward it with holy aggression. But the enemy has been whispering lies, hasn't he? You're too old. You missed your chance. God's moved on without you. That's not the voice of wisdom. That's the voice of defeat, trying to keep you paralyzed while your purpose rots on the vine. Every day you don't move is a day someone else doesn't get healed. Every week you stay silent is a week someone else stays broken. Every month you remain hidden is a month someone else remains hopeless. Your breakthrough isn't just about you, it's about them. The ones God assigned to your voice, your story, your scars turned into stars. This Thursday something shifts. But not automatically, not magically, deliberately, intentionally. Through your obedience to move when movement makes no sense. Call someone, forgive someone, begin the thing you've delayed. This Thursday, take your step. That business idea you buried under fear, resurrect it. That relationship you abandoned under offense, restore it. That dream you declared dead under disappointment, revive it. Because Thursday isn't just coming to you, Thursday is coming through you. But here's the part that will shake you to your core. What if everything you've been waiting for has been waiting for you to stop waiting? What if your breakthrough has been circling your block for months, looking for a sign that you're ready to receive it? The activation isn't coming to make your life easier. It's coming to make your life matter. And mattering requires moving. Moving toward the assignment, moving through the resistance, moving beyond the excuses that have kept you comfortable and confined. Your Thursday starts now, not Thursday morning, right now. Because activation begins in decision, not in circumstance. And the question that will determine everything is this: will you survive this message, or will you step into strategy? You know what breaks my heart? It's watching God's chosen ones convince themselves they've been forgotten when they're actually being positioned. You've been sitting in what feels like spiritual solitary confinement, haven't you? Wondering if your prayers are bouncing off heaven's ceiling like rubber balls. But what if I told you something that would shatter every assumption you've made about this season? What if the silence wasn't God ignoring you, but God protecting you? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Turning points don't come with sirens. They don't announce themselves with fireworks or fanfare. They arrive like a whisper behind your ribs. A subtle shift you feel before you understand. A sacred disruption disguised as ordinary Thursday. And you've been living in the pre-turn, haven't you? That strange space where everything feels suspended, where your old life doesn't fit anymore, but your new life hasn't shown up yet. You're caught between who you were and who you're becoming, and it feels like you're floating in spiritual no man's land. That's the holy turn beginning to form. Look at Ruth, a widow with nothing but loyalty to an old woman who had even less. She spent months gleaning leftover grain in fields that belonged to others, picking up scraps, surviving on charity. No one would have bet on her future. No one would have predicted her story. But then came the threshing floor. One night, one decision, one moment of radical faith when she uncovered Boaz's feet and whispered, "Spread your covering over me." Ruth 3-9. She didn't know she was positioning herself for destiny. She thought she was just surviving another day. But heaven had been orchestrating that moment for months. The turning happened when she stopped trying to figure it out and started trusting the process. Your threshing floor is this Thursday. Or consider Saul, the most unlikely candidate for apostleship in human history, a terrorist with religious credentials, hunting down Christians like prey. Acts 9 tells us he was breathing threats and murder against the disciples. Breathing it. This wasn't casual opposition, this was murderous obsession. But God had other plans. On the road to Damascus, mid-journey, mid-pursuit, mid-hatred, a light from heaven struck him blind. Acts 9-3 says suddenly, a light from heaven flashed around him. Suddenly. No warning, no preparation period. One moment he was Saul, the persecutor. The next he was Paul, the apostle. The turning happened between steps, between heartbeats, between who he thought he was and who God called him to be. And here's what will shock you. The turning didn't feel like victory at first. It felt like devastation. Paul was blind for 3 days, helpless, dependent. Everything he thought he knew about himself and God was demolished in an instant. That's how divine turnings work. They don't feel like promotion, they feel like disruption. But the most radical turning in human history, the cross itself. When Jesus hung there, bleeding and broken, it looked like defeat. His disciples scattered. His enemies celebrated. Even heaven went silent for 3 hours. Matthew 27-46 records his cry, my God, why have you forsaken me?" It looked like abandonment. It felt like failure. It appeared to be the end of everything God had promised. But what looked like death was actually resurrection in disguise. What appeared to be silence was actually sacred rerouting. What seemed like the end was actually the beginning of everything. The cross didn't look like a crown, but it was the pathway to one. Dear one, do you see the pattern? God's greatest turnings happen in the dark. They're birthed in places that look like defeat. They emerge from seasons that feel like spiritual death. Your Thursday isn't coming to test you. It's coming to turn you. But here's what you need to understand about divine turnings. They require your participation. Ruth had to get up and go to the threshing floor. Paul had to say yes to the voice calling his name. Jesus had to choose the cross over comfort. This Thursday is your invitation to participate in your own turning. You've survived the silence. You've endured the waiting. You've wrestled with doubt and disappointment until your spiritual muscles are stronger than you realize. And now God is saying, you're ready for what I've been preparing. The delay wasn't denial. The silence wasn't abandonment. The darkness wasn't punishment. It was sacred preparation for a turning so radical, so complete, so life-altering that you needed to be strengthened first. Because what's coming this Thursday isn't just change, it's metamorphosis. It's the moment when your caterpillar season ends and your butterfly destiny unfolds. But you have to be willing to let the old you die. You have to be willing to trust the process, even when it doesn't look like progress. You have to be willing to believe that what feels like ending is actually beginning. Tag someone who's at their breaking point right now. Tell them, this is where it turns. This is where heaven interrupts earth with a plot twist no one saw coming. Because, chosen one, your silence is about to become your song. Your waiting is about to become your witness. Your pain is about to become your platform. The turning has already begun. The question is, will you turn with it, or will you resist the very thing God is using to resurrect your destiny? What happens next will depend entirely on how you answer that question this Thursday. You feel it, don't you? That strange stirring in your chest when certain memories resurface. That inexplicable pull when you drive past places that once held your dreams. That familiar ache when you remember who you used to be before life taught you to settle for less. Listen to me, chosen one. Destiny doesn't knock, it echoes. And what you thought you buried in the graveyard of disappointment, it heard you calling its name in your sleep. That job you lost at 62 when they said you were restructured out. That door that slammed in your face when you were finally brave enough to try again. That relationship that ended with words so cruel they carved scars into your soul. That business that crumbled just when success seemed within reach. That ministry calling you abandoned because people said you were too old, too broken, too ordinary. You've been telling yourself those chapters are closed. You've been practicing the art of moving on, haven't you? Convincing yourself that some dreams have expiration dates, that some wounds are meant to stay wounded, that some doors, once closed, are sealed forever. But what if I told you something that would shatter that resignation? What if I told you that everything you thought was finished is actually circling back? Not to torment you, not to remind you of failure, not to reopen wounds. They're returning to confirm you've healed. You see, dear one, there's something the enemy doesn't want you to understand about divine timing. When God allows something to be taken from you, when He permits a door to close, when He watches you walk through seasons of stripping and silence, He's not punishing your past, He's preparing your future. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season." But here's what most people miss. Seasons don't just change, they cycle, they return. But when they return, you're not the same person who lost them the first time. The woman who got passed over for that promotion 20 years ago, she was wounded, desperate, seeking validation from people who couldn't see her worth. But the woman you are today, she knows her value doesn't come from corner offices or paychecks. She's been refined by fire, strengthened by rejection, and purified by pain. That's why it's circling back now. Not because you need it the same way, because you can handle it differently. Think about Job. Everything was stripped away: his wealth, his children, his health, his reputation. But Job 42:10 tells us, "The Lord restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends." Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Twice as much. Not just restoration, multiplication. But here's the part that will blow your mind. Job received double not because he begged for it, but because he had become someone who could steward double. The man who emerged from the ashes wasn't the same man who entered the fire. The loss had transformed his capacity. Your past isn't haunting you, chosen one. It's hunting you down with a divine appointment. That dream you had in your 30s that seemed to die, it's been incubating in the invisible realm, growing, expanding, waiting for you to become the person who could birth it without it destroying you. That calling you abandoned because you felt unqualified. Heaven has spent decades qualifying you through every trial, every tear, every sleepless night of wondering if God still remembered your name. He never forgot. He was just waiting for you to forget the voices that told you to quit. But this is where it gets uncomfortable. This is where the truth cuts deep into the tender places of your heart. Some of you have been so wounded by disappointment that you've built walls around your dreams. You've convinced yourself that hoping again is foolish, that believing again is dangerous, that trusting again is naive. You've been living in survival mode for so long that you've forgotten you were designed for revival. But God isn't revisiting your pain, He's reclaiming it. Every tear you cried over that failed marriage, He collected them in bottles and turned them into rivers of compassion for others drowning in loneliness. Every night you lay awake wondering why your children turned away, He was teaching you to parent spiritual orphans who need someone who understands abandonment. Every dollar you lost, every opportunity that slipped away, every door that closed, He was clearing the path for something so much greater that your old vision would have been too small to contain it. Isaiah 43:18-19 cuts through the noise of your doubt. Do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing, now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? A new thing, not a recycled version of what you lost. Something fresh, something unprecedented. Something that will make you grateful for every closed door that led you to this open heaven. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. This Thursday isn't just another Thursday. It's the convergence point where your past meets your promise. It's the moment when what seemed dead rises again, but dressed in resurrection clothes you don't yet recognize. The signs are already there, aren't they? Old friends reaching out after years of silence. Opportunities presenting themselves that sound strangely familiar to dreams you thought were buried. Phone calls that make your heart race with possibility. Doors creaking open that you thought were permanently sealed. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Your echo is returning, but it's not bringing back your old life. It's delivering your new one. Comment: I'm reclaiming it. If you know something is circling back, not to haunt you, but to heal you. Not to punish your past, but to fulfill your promise. Because this Thursday, the echo becomes a roar, and you're about to discover why everything had to be taken away before it could be given back transformed. But the question that will determine everything is this: are you ready to receive what you couldn't handle before, now that you've become who you needed to be to steward it? You know what nobody tells you about being chosen? They don't tell you about the nights when your knees hit the cold floor at 2 a.m., tears streaming down your face, begging God to explain why everything you touch seems to crumble. They don't tell you about the wrestle. But I'm going to tell you something right now that will change how you see every sleepless night, every private breakdown, every moment you wanted to quit but couldn't. What you thought was your breaking point was actually your breakthrough point. You see, chosen one, there's a reason why your life has felt like a battlefield while others seem to coast through on cruise control. There's a reason why your prayers felt like they were bouncing off heaven's ceiling while your neighbors seemed to get answered by Tuesday. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. Let me take you to a dusty riverbank in the middle of nowhere. A man named Jacob is alone, wrestling through the night with a mysterious figure. Genesis 32 tells us he fought until daybreak, his hip wrenched out of socket, his body screaming in agony. But Jacob refused to let go. I will not let you go unless you bless me. That wasn't desperation talking. That was determination. That was a man who understood that sometimes God's greatest blessings come wrapped in struggle. When morning broke, Jacob walked away with a limp, but he also walked away with a new name: Israel. He who wrestles with God and prevails. The very struggle that should have destroyed him became the foundation of his destiny. Every step he took for the rest of his life testified to the night he touched the divine and lived to tell about it. You've been wrestling too, haven't you? Maybe not with an angel on a riverbank, but with depression that came like a thief in the night. With financial pressure that made you question if God even cared about your bills. With relationships that ended in betrayal just when you thought you could trust again. With health scares that made you stare mortality in the face and wonder if your prayers were just echoing in empty space. But here's what I need you to understand. Every sleepless night when you chose faith over fear that was divine wrestling. Every morning you got up when staying in bed would have been easier, that was holy combat. Every time you forgave when bitterness would have felt justified, that was spiritual warfare of the highest order. You thought you were being broken, but really, you were being bent into shape. Think about steel. You don't make a sword by being gentle with metal. You heat it in fire until it glows white hot. You hammer it, fold it, stretch it, test it until it can hold an edge sharp enough to cut through anything. The process looks like destruction, but it's actually creation of the most powerful kind. God has been forging something in you through every trial. Every rejection letter was hammering out your resilience. Every betrayal was burning away your need for human approval. Every financial struggle was teaching you that your security doesn't come from Wall Street. It comes from the one who owns every street. Jesus himself knew this sacred strain. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Luke 22:44 tells us his anguish was so intense that his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. The Son of God, wrestling with the weight of what was coming. But it was in that garden of agony that he surrendered completely. Not my will, but yours be done. And what followed? The greatest victory in human history. Your Gethsemane wasn't your end. It was your beginning. This is why nothing else worked. Chosen one. This is why that easy job fell through. This is why that comfortable relationship didn't last. This is why every shortcut led to a dead end. Because you weren't being prepared for comfort. You were being prepared for consequence. Not convenience, but calling. Not ease, but authority. God doesn't need more people who've never been tested. He needs people who've been through the fire and came out gold. He needs voices that can speak to the broken because they remember what it felt like to shatter. He needs hands that can lift others because they remember clawing their way out of the pit. Every tear you cried in secret is liquid gold in heaven's economy. Every prayer you whispered when your voice was hoarse from crying, God collected those like precious gems. Psalm 56:8 says it plainly, You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. Your pain wasn't pointless. It was purposeful. Your struggle wasn't senseless. It was strategic. Right now, someone is sitting in their car in a Walmart parking lot, crying because they don't know how they're going to make rent this month. Someone else is lying in a hospital bed, wondering if God remembers their address. Another soul is staring at divorce papers, feeling like their world just imploded. And God is looking for someone who's been there, someone who knows what it feels like to have nothing left but faith. Someone whose testimony isn't theory, it's biography written in scars and sealed with survival. That someone is you. If you've been through the wrestle, sleepless nights, private breakdowns, quiet prayers that felt like shouting into the void, if you've walked through valleys so dark you couldn't see your own hand, but you're still here, still breathing, still believing, type in the comments right now, that was me, but I'm still standing. Because Thursday isn't just coming to reward your patience. Thursday is coming to reveal your purpose. The same struggles that tried to bury you are about to become the platform from which you rescue others. But here's what you need to know about divine preparation. It always has a deadline, and yours is Thursday. Dear chosen one, I need to shatter an illusion that's been keeping you small for decades. You've been sitting in that chair, lying in that bed, walking through those same rooms, thinking you're waiting for God to send you a sign. But what if I told you something so profound, so earth-shattering, that it will rewrite everything you thought you knew about your purpose? You are not waiting on a sign. You are the sign. Let that penetrate the deepest chambers of your heart. Right now, at 73, at 82, at 91 years old, you think your season of significance has passed. You think God's moved on to younger vessels, fresher faces, stronger bodies. But that's the greatest lie the enemy has ever whispered in your weathered ears. Listen to me carefully. In Jeremiah 1-5, before the prophet was even born, God declared, Before I formed you in the womb I knew you. Before you were born I set you apart. Not just loved you, set you apart, marked you, designated you as a living, breathing signal to a generation that's lost its way. You think those 70 years of struggle were punishment? Those weren't your wilderness years, beloved. Those were your training years. Every heartbreak was curriculum. Every betrayal was education. Every sleepless night was preparation for this Thursday, when you finally understand why you've survived everything that should have destroyed you. The world looks at your silver hair and sees decline. But heaven looks at your silver hair and sees a crown of glory earned through fire. Proverbs 16:31 declares, Gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is attained in the way of righteousness. Your wrinkles aren't signs of weakness, they're battle scars from spiritual warfare you've been winning for decades. But here's where it gets personal. How many times have you looked in the mirror and asked, God, what am I still doing here? Why didn't you take me home when you took my spouse? Why am I still breathing when I feel so forgotten? Because you carry something this dying world desperately needs. You carry the frequency of faith that's been tested by time. You carry the DNA of endurance. You carry the sacred code of someone who's walked through hell and still believes heaven is real. A lighthouse doesn't chase ships, it just shines. And you, precious soul, you've been shining in the darkness for so long, you forgot that lost ships navigate by your light. Your grandchildren who've lost their way, they're watching to see if faith is real. Your neighbors facing their own midnight hours. They're looking for someone who's survived the storm. This broken generation that's forgotten how to hope. They need to see what someone looks like who's weathered every storm and still stands. You thought you were ordinary, but Ephesians 2:10 reveals the truth. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Handiwork. The Greek word is poema, masterpiece. You're not just God's creation, you're His masterpiece, sculpted by decades of divine artistry. Every tear you've cried was collected in heaven's bottles. Every prayer you've whispered was recorded in eternal archives. Every time you chose faith over fear, hope over despair, love over bitterness, you were writing your credentials as heaven's signal to earth. But this Thursday, this isn't just another day you'll survive. This is the day you'll recognize what you've become. This is the day the lighthouse realizes ships have been navigating by its beam all along. You thought you were waiting on the moment, but heaven was waiting on you to realize you are the moment. You are the answer to prayers being whispered in hospital rooms tonight. You are the proof that God still keeps His promises. You are the evidence that faith can survive anything. Your voice carries authority that comes only from having your words tested by time. When you say God is faithful, it carries weight because you've watched Him be faithful for 8 decades. When you say weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning, it resonates because you've survived the longest nights and witnessed the most glorious dawns. This is why the enemy tried so hard to silence you. This is why depression whispered, "Give up," when you were 65. This is why loneliness screamed, "You don't matter," when you were 75. Because hell recognized the signal you were becoming before you did. But you didn't break. You didn't quit. You didn't let the darkness extinguish your flame. And now, this Thursday, heaven is turning up the voltage on that light you've been carrying. You are not a remnant of a bygone era. You are a prophetic preview of what faith looks like when it's been refined by fire. You are the proof that God's promises don't expire with age, they mature like fine wine. Say this out loud right now. Let your own voice confirm what heaven has always known. I am the signal. I am the turning point. Feel that power in your declaration. That's not just words, that's recognition. That's your spirit remembering what your mind forgot. That's the sacred code activating in your DNA. But if you truly are the signal this generation needs, if you're the lighthouse guiding lost ships home, then this Thursday brings more than personal breakthrough. It brings commissioning, because signals don't just shine for themselves, they illuminate the path for others. And what God is about to reveal through you will change everything. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. Right now, this very moment, you're experiencing something that terrifies hell itself. You're not just getting closer to your breakthrough. You're standing in the birth canal of destiny, and everything is about to change. But here's what nobody prepared you for. The closer you get to your promised land, the louder the warfare becomes. Mountains don't shake when you're far away. They tremble when you're close enough to touch the summit. And that rumbling you feel in your spirit, that's not your imagination. That's the sound of spiritual realms colliding, because you've stepped into the danger zone of divine intervention. Think about this. Why has everything gotten harder in the last few weeks? Why are the attacks more vicious? Why does it feel like you're swimming upstream in molasses while everyone else seems to glide through life? Because you're not on the edge anymore, beloved. You're in the doorway. The enemy knows something you're just beginning to understand. This Thursday isn't just another day. It's the day heaven has been preparing for decades. And Satan is throwing everything he's got at you because he knows once you step through this threshold, there's no going back to small living. Look at what happened to the Israelites at the Red Sea. Exodus 14:10 tells us that when they saw Pharaoh's army charging toward them, they were terrified. They cried out to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die?" They were literally standing between slavery and salvation, and all they could see was the impossibility. But here's what they couldn't see. The very moment they felt most trapped was the exact moment God was about to do the impossible. You're standing at your Red Sea right now. The waters haven't parted yet. The enemy is charging behind you. The promised land is ahead, but all you can see is the wall of water that looks impassable, and your mind is screaming the same thing theirs did. I'm going to die here. This is where my story ends. But listen to me with everything you have. This is where your story explodes into the supernatural. Moses didn't negotiate with the sea. He didn't beg it to move. Exodus 14:16 records God's exact words, "Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide it." The miracle was waiting for one thing: Moses to stop seeing the problem and start seeing the possibility. This Thursday, God is handing you the staff. But here's where it gets intense. The pressure you're feeling right now, that's not resistance, that's revelation, trying to birth itself through you. When a woman is in labor, the pain doesn't mean something's wrong, it means something's about to be born. Don't quit in the pressure. The baby is crowning. Push. I'm talking to the 72-year-old grandmother who's been praying for her grandson's salvation for 15 years. And yesterday he called asking about church. I'm talking to the 68-year-old man who just got diagnosed with cancer, but in his spirit he knows this isn't his ending, it's his testimony in the making. The attacks aren't random, dear one. They're strategic. Hell doesn't waste ammunition on people who aren't dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. The fact that you're under fire is proof that you're carrying something powerful, something that threatens the status quo, something that's about to change everything. Daniel knew this. When he was thrown into the lion's den in Daniel 6, it wasn't because he was weak. It was because his prayers were so powerful, they literally changed laws. His faithfulness was so threatening to the enemy that they had to silence him. But what they meant for destruction, God meant for demonstration. Those lions didn't roar, they laid down. Not because Daniel tamed them, but because what he carried made even predators recognize divinity. What you're carrying is making hell nervous too. This is why your family doesn't understand your sudden boldness. This is why toxic relationships are falling away. This is why doors that should open are staying closed, and doors that seemed impossible are creaking open. You're being repositioned for a new level of authority, and not everyone can go where God is taking you. But here's the part that's going to break you open with hope. Every setback has been a setup. Every delay has been divine strategy. Every tear you've cried has been collected in heaven's bottles, and this Thursday, those tears are about to water the garden of your greatest victory. Psalm 126:5 declares, "Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy." Your sowing season is over, chosen one. Your reaping season begins in 3 days. The enemy thought he was destroying you, but God was developing you. He thought he was blocking your path, but heaven was building your platform. He thought he was silencing your voice, but the Almighty was amplifying your authority. This Thursday, everything the enemy stole is coming back with interest. Every promise that was delayed is about to be delivered. Every dream that seemed dead is about to resurrect with power you never imagined. But I need you to hear this. The breakthrough happens in the bending, not in the breaking. You're not falling apart, you're falling into place. And when Thursday dawns, you're going to understand why every closed door was actually protection, and every detour was actually direction. If you've ever felt tempted to give up right before the miracle, if you've stood at the edge of quitting when victory was just one prayer away, tell me right now in the comments, "I almost quit, but God." Because what's coming this Thursday isn't just change, it's the moment when your entire life finally makes sense. Beloved chosen one, As we come to the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you into Thursday and beyond. First, remember this. The whisper you heard at the beginning of this message wasn't your imagination, it was heaven calling your name. The restlessness in your spirit, the stirring at 3:17 a.m., the sense that something monumental is approaching that's not anxiety, that's anticipation. God has been preparing you for this Thursday appointment since before you took your first breath. Second, your breakthrough isn't dependent on your perfection, it's dependent on His faithfulness. Every setback was a setup, every delay was divine strategy. Every door that closed was protection from settling for less than His best. This Thursday, you're not just receiving what you've been praying for, you're stepping into what heaven has been preparing. And third, the pressure you've been feeling isn't proof that you're failing, it's proof that you're about to succeed. Mountains only tremble when you're close enough to reach the summit. The enemy only fights what threatens his kingdom. Your warfare is evidence of your worth. But hear me clearly. You are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when Thursday seems too good to be true, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the God who parted the Red Sea is still working miracles. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is actively moving in your life right now, orchestrating circumstances, opening doors, and positioning people for your breakthrough. And right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your struggle, who believe in your calling, and who are ready to stand with you in prayer. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family, united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the love of Christ. So let me ask you this. If God has brought you this far through every valley, every storm, every season that tried to break you, why would He abandon you now at the threshold of your greatest victory? Before I release you into your Thursday destiny, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of 5 decades walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has walked with us through this message. Lord, you see their hearts, you know their struggles. You've counted every tear they've shed in secret. This Thursday, let every lie of the enemy be silenced. Let every door that's been closed swing wide open. Let every promise that's been delayed be delivered with power. Father, place your hand upon their shoulders right now. Where they feel weary, breathe fresh strength. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they're engraved on your palms. Where they feel afraid, flood them with your perfect peace. Let this Thursday be the day their waiting turns to worship, their pain turns to purpose, their test turns to testimony. God, open their eyes to see the doors you're already opening. Open their ears to hear your voice above the noise. Open their hearts to receive the abundance you're already releasing. Let them walk into Thursday not as beggars hoping for scraps, but as royalty claiming their inheritance. Protect them, Lord. Cover their families. Bless their finances, heal their bodies, restore their relationships. Give them divine connections, supernatural opportunities, and undeniable confirmations that you are still the God of the impossible. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence so strongly this Thursday that every doubt dissolves, every fear flees, and every question finds its answer in your unfailing love. In the mighty name of Jesus, who holds Thursday in His hands, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and expectation. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what God spoke to your heart during this message. What are you believing Him for this Thursday? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to keep believing. If this message stirred something deep in your spirit, please share it with someone who needs to remember they're not forgotten. There's someone in your circle right now who feels like giving up, who needs to know their Thursday is coming too. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. This isn't just content, this is a movement of awakening. Every week, we're diving deeper into the mysteries of God's timing, unpacking the promises of His Word, and building a community where faith grows and miracles happen. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for believing when believing was hard, for holding on to hope when hope seemed foolish. Your faithfulness to watch, to listen, to receive it tells me everything I need to know about your character and your calling. This Thursday, you're not just going to see change, you're going to be the change. You're not just going to receive a miracle, you're going to become one. Until we meet again, walk in expectation, rest in His faithfulness, and remember, your Thursday promise is already on its way. God bless you, chosen one. Thursday is almost here.